You guys remember this trick? Two more tries. Well, that could have been a doubler. Today, we are doing night photography. Today is going to be a how-to on how to do night photography. Something that I am definitely not experienced with. I'm learning right here with you guys. I went out to Grand Rapids last night, gave it a shot. It was pouring rain. The thing about night photography and doing really street photography in a busy city, it's really cool with all the different colors from the stoplights, the green, red, yellow, different neon signs and windows of businesses. You kind of have to have a reflection. It adds a big aspect to your photos and adds a lot of cool colors. Let's jump into Lightroom and I will show you guys a little bit of what I've been doing with night photography. Let's check it out. So here's the photo that we want. This is the raw photo. This is straight out of camera of the one we took last night. This is the EOS R taking a photo of the 1DX. So let's go over to develop and now we can edit everything on the right. So I'm gonna get a lot of hate on it, but the first thing I always do is go to auto adjust. With Lightroom being such a powerful tool, the auto button can technically bring your shadows, your highlights, your whites, your blacks, all those different curves and colors to where Lightroom thinks it should be. After you guys hit auto, now we're gonna mess around with the crop. So obviously I shot this one specific for Instagram. Let's see. So we're gonna make this a 5x4 crop. That's Instagram's like vertical photo now. And then we're gonna center that camera right there and hit return. If you wanted to go like Instagram story, you can come up here, go to crop, and then go 16:9. And that's what was on my story last night, that different crop. I'm gonna go back to 4x5 and make it as big, 4x5, center that camera, and hit enter. So I'm gonna show you guys what each slider does. Let's say that you get a photo coming in where it looks really warm. It's not exactly where you wanna be with your photo. And then you're gonna take this little dropper here. We're gonna come over to any part that's actually white and hit it. That's gonna make all of your colors natural colors and bring those whites to be true white in the photo. Usually this will solve a lot of your issues, but sometimes on a really sunny day or a really cold, wintry day, it might overcompensate. After that, we're gonna go down to exposure, and up here is also, you can see your colors, but you can also see blacks, shadows, exposure, highlights. All of your darks, all of your blacks in the photo are gonna be over to the left, and all your whites, your true whites as bright as you can be, are gonna be all the way to the right. So you wanna kinda get your photo, depending on what you're shooting, somewhere in that middle ground. Something at night, you're gonna probably stay more toward the dark side, but something in the middle of the day, where you really want that brightest white, you're gonna have a lot of stuff pushed over to the right. So let's look at exposure here, and let's crank that up just a little bit to bring more detail into that photo. That looks good right there. And then we'll bring the contrast. It's gonna bring your shadows down, it's gonna bring your highlights up. Usually people just crank that right up. Yeah, it gives it kind of a cool look, but it's just way overdone. So we're gonna bring that contrast back down. Be aware when you use contrast, if you crank it all the way up, all of your highlights are way up, all your shadows are way down. So you're losing a lot of detail. If we zoom into the body and we crank that contrast all the way up, watch right here where you can see a little bit of texture of that camera. You're gonna lose all of that texture. You're gonna have no more detail in it. So make sure that's a slider that you can really overdo, because in a lot of cases it'll make your photo look good, but you just gotta find the right place for it. Right about there. We're gonna zoom back out. So your next section, you have your highlights, your shadows, your whites, and your blacks. Highlights and whites are gonna be anything really bright in your photo that might have lost detail if your photo's overexposed. This one, because it's taken at night, a lot of those sliders are down, they're on the low side. So we wanna bring up any of those highlights and whites that we can. So we're gonna bring our highlights up a little bit, not too much. You can see all in the LCD screen here. If I bring that highlight up too much, I'm losing all that detail. We want to retain any kind of detail that we have in this photo. So I'd say right there looks good, plus 10 or 11. All right, so the whites aren't too bad, but up in the scope, you can see on the right side that there isn't much that is true white. If that graph is all the way pushed over to the right, you're not gonna have any detail. So you're gonna wanna just creep up on the right side and just touch it to get some true whites in your photo. So we're gonna take that white slider, we're gonna push it, push it, push it till right there. That looks good. And then we're gonna bring our blacks over to the left. Here's our blacks. Once it hits that wall, that means it has no more detail, or it's a true black. So let's bring that down a little bit. You can see at the bottom of the blacks here, I'm just touching that wall. Okay, so the next section that we're gonna look at is your clarity, dehaze, vibrance, and saturation. These all can be way overused. The clarity slider we're gonna use first. People are gonna think I'm overdoing this. I really want a reflective finish on this photo. Boost that clarity up right about there, somewhere around 70, let's do 75. If you guys see, we're starting to gain some grain over here from that clarity slider. If we bring it back, that grain softens out. If we boost it up, we get that grain. There's a different slider lower that is gonna help us with that. Dehaze, let's put that at 30. And I like that. If you go too much with dehaze, you're gonna lose a lot of your details in your shadows. If you don't go enough, you're gonna kinda have a weird like film over your photo. So I usually will do half of whatever I do in clarity, which is gonna be 37.5. We'll go 37. I think saturation and vibrance kind of go hand in hand. They're both gonna be increasing your amount of color that you have in your photo. So let's go down to your HSL. That's gonna be hue, saturation, and luminance. This is where you're gonna manipulate a lot of your colors. And you guys can see in the hue section, we can take any of those blues in the photo and we can bring them to more of a teal, or we can bring them more to a purple. All those adjustments are going to happen in these sliders. So the hue, saturation, and luminance tab is really where you're going to make that photo your own. It's really where you're going to put in your own style. When you download like a preset pack, this is where a lot of the things are going to be changed. Up in the highlights, the shadows, the whites, the blacks, all that kind of stuff. You're just nailing your exposure and you're getting it ready to throw on that preset. So I'm going to teach you guys how I did Neptune as a preset. And that's going to be kind of that orange and teal vibe. So here's our photo where we're sitting. We have all of our lighting nailed. I like how it looks. And you guys can actually see before we move on, because I wanted a lot of colors in this photo, I actually brought these little guys that I bought at Home Depot. They actually came clear. I don't think I have any clear ones around, but they came from Home Depot, and I bought like 12 of them for 30 bucks. And so you can unscrew them and take these screws out. And I actually bought like that binder film, and I just cut out a circle. I did a few layers of that, and now I have a bunch of different colors of these. They didn't have a multicolor one. They probably had like a million color one on Amazon for like 100 bucks, but I went cheap. I built my own one. So that's what I did to add to this photo. You guys can see on the left side of this photo, I have an orange one sitting over here, and then I also have a blue one right behind the camera shooting back at it to get more of that blue glow. And then that bridge in Grand Rapids actually has blue lights above it. So there was a lot of different color tones in this photo. But what we're gonna do, because I want it to look like that Neptune preset, we're gonna take all of our blues in the photo, which we're gonna take this slider, and then we're gonna move it more to that teal side. So that looks good right there. And then we're gonna bring any of this yellow and orange up here. We're gonna bring our yellows more to orange, and then we're gonna bring our reds more to orange as well. And you guys can see down here, if you guys bring your sliders too far, that blend from orange to pink to purple, when you bring that slider, it's gonna start to divide those too harsh. So you wanna make sure you're aware of that when you're manipulating colors, that you're not making it look too modified and you can see almost steps in your colors. So right there I like that a lot. All right, so our photo's almost done. I actually am gonna take a little bit of a step back and look at where the camera sits in the photo. So we're gonna go back up to crop, and we're gonna manipulate this a little bit. I want that to be right in the middle of the photo. So we're gonna go there, enter. I like that more. All right, so the next one, split toning. This is kind of where you can also achieve that orange and teal look. So here you're gonna go to highlights, and if you want that orange teal, you're gonna go boom. You're gonna go over to any orange or whatever you want your highlights of your scope to be over here. And then that's gonna turn all of your highlights to be a little bit more orange. And then here you can adjust the saturation or how heavy that is. So let's go maybe a little bit more right there, 7. And then we'll go to shadows, and we want that to be more teal. And obviously because we edited this in the HSL tab, we're just doubling everything. That's why everything looks a little too heavy. But just showing you guys how you can achieve that same look. Go teal, bring that saturation all the way down, and then slowly creep up. I always like when I put on a filter, whenever I adjust any kind of slider, I bring it all the way down to 0, and then I kind of eventually bump it up. I feel like when you start at 100, you can always end too high. So always start at 0 with your saturation and work your way up to where you think it should be. Let's go down. Here's where your detail is. So this is where a lot of your grain, your noise reduction is gonna happen. So let's zoom all the way in, and let's go 4x1. So you guys can see how grainy this photo is right now. And this is blown up on a monitor that's 27 inches big. So obviously it's gonna be very grainy. You're zooming in over here. You can see how close you're zooming in by. I honestly don't do a whole lot with this detail stuff, but noise reduction is a big thing when you're boosting that clarity up as much as I'm doing, and any kind of long exposures or night photos where you're using a lower shutter speed. So here's your luminance. As you go more, you can see that grain starting to get softer and softer, and then we're gonna back out. So what are we at? We're at 42 with our luminance. Let's go all the way back out. So the photo doesn't look any less clear, I don't think, but you got rid of a lot of the grain in your shadows. So I think it looks really good right now. We're gonna go down a little bit more, and I'm gonna just go past all this kind of stuff. That's just different cropping, remove, chromatic, lens kind of stuff. Usually people will do that in case you get any kind of fisheye. So like you can see that different, you can see the camera almost looks like it gets pushed away a little bit. I don't usually do that a whole lot. Some people swear by it, but my style, I don't do it. Different transform tools, and then you're gonna go to your effects. I always like to add a little bit of a vignette. It helps kind of brighten up your main subject if you're subjected in the middle. We're gonna go down by, I don't know, we'll go down -15. You guys can see those edges get a little bit darker. Basically brings more of your attention to the center of the photo where a subject is. And that is it. So that's gonna be how you edit the photo. So with that being said, I want you guys to send me your photos that you guys edit. If you guys have a photo or wanna go take photos, you guys are in the Grand Rapids area, let me know. I'm always down to shoot. I shot this alone last night at like 11 o'clock. I texted a few people and everybody was busy or had to work early in the morning. So I'm always down to go shoot, especially new stuff like this where you kind of go out and it's kind of up in the air of what you're going to come back with. That's kind of what photography is all about. So grab a friend or two, get out, go at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, whenever after dark, and get some of these photos. They're really cool. It'll give you guys something new to take photos of, just a different style. So let me know if you guys like this video, if you guys want to see more tutorials, really critique how I went about this. This is kind of my first time doing the whole screen share, flipping back and forth kind of thing. So I appreciate you guys checking this video out. Hopefully I can see some of your photos that you guys edit. And with that being said, make sure you guys are subscribed and tell your friends all about this channel. Really trying to grow it. Pumped to see the support I'm getting from you guys already. So I will see you guys in the next video. Later.